Hello and welcome back to the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast. My name is Lindsay Walker, and today I have a very, very special guest with me for you to all meet and just experience her beautiful, beautiful magic. Today I have my friend Angell Kelly, who is a spiritual guide, intuitive herself, podcast host, and she is here to help you do the inner work required to align with your soul's path and purpose. And my goodness, this woman has some incredible wisdom, but not just mind wisdom. She has some serious lived wisdom. And I am truly, truly grateful to call her a friend and have known her for actually quite a few years now, which is really, really crazy to say. But Angel, I am so grateful to have you here. And I can't wait for the listeners to hear everything you have to share. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and for that lovely grounding opening.
Absolutely. You very much do bring your own grounding energy to the space. So I feel like this is going to be like a very realistic, but still spiritual, you know, episode, I suppose.
But as a girl who's very grounded, this is probably the least grounded you'll have ever seen me.
Ooh.
I'm Angel's version of like a little floaty, drifty these
All
days.
right. All right.
Oh,
That's okay.
me
You
too.
know what? There is seasons, there's ebbs, there's flows. And I know that we've
Yes.
like chatted behind the scenes a little bit. And just like where you're at in life, I think so many people can actually relate to. And so, if you're someone that's listening that is either in a big transition in life or wants to take one, you've got to stick around for everything she has to share because I just can feel, even though like you maybe not feel like it's fully processed, where you're at now is really, really going to support other people who want to make similar moves in their life as you or coming from a similar space. So, can you just share? I want to like give people a teaser. Where are you coming in from?
I am recording and chatting with Lindsay from Naxos, Greece, which is a little island in Greece.
Ooh, and you're not just visiting, right? You do.
Oh, that's right, friends. I am not tourist. I have moved here, and it's been almost 1 month since I left Canada, where I'm from.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just so excited to hear more about this, but this was like this is I'm dangling the carrot in front of your face. That's the little teaser. Just like hang on to that for a minute if you're like, "What in the world? This woman moved to Greece from Canada." Yes. Yes, and she is here to tell you all about it. But we've got to back up a little bit because there's some really, really important things that you all need to hear from this woman before we get to Greece. But, she's obviously this Grecian goddess already glowing there. So she very much fits the bill.
I was like, oh, I'll just make sure I'm glowing for this podcast. Step out into the sun.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Didn't even have to try, just showed up. Love that. So also, you have made lots of big changes in your life. And one of the things I want to give a backstory of why, like, I felt your energy was circling in my field. Like I had mentioned, we've known each other for a while. We did our intuitive school together, if you want to call it, with Nikki Novo back in 2020. Two, I think it
Ooh,
was. Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
I can't remember years now. And then was able to actually go on the retreat together. So you guys are, if you're like hearing this story multiple times, it's because there was a lot of us and we're still very close. And I will be having each and every one of them on here. And Angel is one of those beautiful women. And so there's been a lot that has gotten you to this point. Now, when I was really feeling called to reach out to you about coming on this podcast, like I start to feel certain people's energies like circulating. And I'm like, oh, okay. And and in that point, it was maybe a month ago, and you were in the transition, but you were about to go to Greece, but you hadn't actually made it there. So I would love for you to take us back to the moment of maybe earlier this year when the decision making was maybe made. I don't know exactly when you made the decision to go to
Mm.
Greece. I know there was something that happened last year, but what was
Mhm.
the big moment between like last year when you found Greece, when you found this place that you all wanted to go to, but then the decisions you had to make earlier this year to actually make this happen?
Yeah. Okay, so to circle back exactly 1 year ago, my now fiance and I were in Greece for a month, just traveling, um, just beautiful traveling, and um, and Shane proposed to me at the time on this island,
Oh.
and and it really like opened up what I'm calling, or what I have referred to as, an engagement portal, because
Yeah.
something just like switched for us that I did not see coming, that made us go like, everything's possible. Everything's possible.
Mm,
What do we want to do? Anything. We get to create the lives that we want to create. What do we want to do with that? And I think that came from, there's a lot of beautiful energy in partnership and in teaming up and in truly teaming up, like
mhm,
we were together for a long time. I thought we were teamed up. He thought we were teamed up, but until that moment, which I think makes marriage and engagement very sacred.
mhm,
So that was like sort of the seed. And then we just started dreaming. We were just like, what do we want to do? I was quite miserable in my job, as Lindsay knows very well. I was working corporate and an on-call job, so I was never not working. I was
mhm,
evenings, weekends, middle of the night, at the office all week, blah, blah, blah. Was not working for me. Knew there needed to be a change, but God kept sending me the message that, like, just to wait, just to keep going, just to wait. So we start dreaming. And one of those dreams is to move to Naxos and restore an old building into a little boutique hotel.
wow.
And so that is the one that stuck. And we spent a year, it's been 1 year, and it's crazy to think what can happen in a year. And those
Mhm,
first couple of months were just about like, oh, is this going to stick? We came back from our vacation, we got back to our lives, our jobs, our friends, our comforts, and will this stick? And it just kept kind of sticking. And a lot of synchronicities were coming in, and I was very aware of what God was showing me. And so we just kept moving forward, moving forward. But it wasn't until January of this year, 2025, where it was like a question of, okay, are you going to get real though? Okay, planning, talking about it, all these sorts of things are great. But at some
mhm.
point, you need to put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, or literally.
Yeah.
And, and that's what January was. So I quit my job in January, which was really big. It was really big for me.
Mhm.
Um, because it wasn't just like, it was like quitting a career, and they offered me a lot on my way out, as I'm sure they did with you. And
I think yours was different, but that's okay.
okay,
Not not
maybe
a
not,
not
but
a not for personal reasons, more just like, where the company culture is at. But we'll leave that one there.
I see, I see, I see. Okay. Well, anyway, quit my job. And then, we took a trip out here in the winter, because everyone goes like, you're going to live out there in the winter, because this island just goes super quiet in the winter.
Mhm.
It's like tourist season is over. So we came out in the winter, we experienced it. A lot of fears came up. But again, I was seeing all the signs like to push forward. And the only sign, quote unquote, to stop was us getting in our own way. So we
Ooh.
just got out of our way and we just moved forward. And I hope that answers your question. Now we're here today. We moved April 28th. And we brought our giant dog with us, so that makes it permanent. But it makes it a little more permanent. And we're here. We're here. We did it.
Yeah, I love that. And I would love to, so there's definitely some reflections I would love to offer you from like what I've seen from you as well. And
I'd love that.
first off, coming back to your engagement portal, I remember when you mentioned this to us and like, we meet up about once a month and you had mentioned this and I was like, wow, first off, I never thought about it like that. And for you to have this level of awareness where you were able to really feel that and put a name to it and actually say like, this feels different and I'm going to treat it differently in a good way. I think is was absolutely beautiful to really witness. And I don't think you necessarily, that I say that with a caveat of saying like, oh, you don't have to be this like super, aware, awakened person to get engaged. So you can like have your understanding of this engagement portal. Like I didn't, I was not aware of
Mm,
this, but reflecting back, there is, like you're saying, a shift of energy when it happens. And you either go into your own shit and your own shadows for you to like figure out together, or if you have already worked through that, like it might be a little bit different. And it seems like it was maybe less shadow work for you two, but more of just like, how do we want to create? And I don't think one is bad or good, or, it's just different. But it was really cool to witness you going through this just because of where you are already at in your own life.
right. Yes. Thank you. Yes. And yeah, I'm sure that that portal does not look the same for everyone. But I think recognizing that there is a
Mhm.
shift, I could almost touch it.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe anyone who's hoping to get engaged in the community can watch out for it.
Yeah. And even just like, recognizing that there is a shift, because I think there is so many people who are trying to push away engagement or push away marriage,
Mm.
and whatever your opinions are with, it being like a government attached thing, like that's a whole nother thing. But I think there's actually still an energy and, like you're saying, like a sacredness to it that you can feel without all of the paperwork even involved.
Sure. Totally. Yes. Yeah. And even with something like even the ring, like that is, another thing that, people have all sorts of feelings about, whatever. But,
Yeah.
it was a process for Shane that I wasn't a
Yeah.
part of. So Shane went on a journey months before I had any friggin' I was not yet part of the process at that point. And
Yeah.
he goes on his own journey prior to bringing me into there's just like there's so much to it. It's giving me goosebumps.
Same.
Um, that like if that you can treat as sacred if you so choose.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I love that. And truly, like it is a level of commitment that, you choose to have. And like you're saying, like, the partner of yours goes on a journey as well, which I think is beautiful.
Mhm.
So I really did enjoy getting to witness your process through that, and the fact that you all then took this dream that you had and put it into action, because there's so many people who could probably go on vacation and say, I want to do this thing. Wouldn't this be so cool to move there? Like, how often do people go somewhere and they're like, I could just live here? And you just say it, but when was anyone actually putting some substance behind it? So even before we get to like dive in more of like the leaving the corporate job, I would just love to know, like, what was it for you when you guys were on this island? Like, how did you find this place that you wanted to turn into a boutique hotel? Like, what was that process even like? Because I've heard about it, but I'm like, how does one do that? Like, how does that
Yeah.
even happen? Like, how does that become something that is actually a possibility?
Yeah, totally. I mean, who hasn't said that on vacation? I said that on vacation, other vacations,
Yeah.
we all say that.
Yeah.
I think we were in a very special position in that we had the magic and the power of the engagement.
Yeah.
And I was at the end of my rope. Like I'd reached a limit in what I had chosen for myself as my day in, day out.
Mhm.
that was not going to be it anymore. So it was like that. And then we have a lot of earth in our charts, which like makes us practical and makes us do things. But anyway, to answer your question, why Naxos? How did that whole thing happen? We met, so our Airbnb host when we were here a year ago,
Mhm.
his name is Yanis. He's like a 60-something-year-old man. And he was like the Greek experience, when you're like,
Oh, I
I
love
want a
that.
local experience. He was that. He sat down with us, he'd have coffee with us.
Oh.
When we got engaged, he took us to dinner, like
Oh.
so cool. We just love him. He became our Greek dad.
Oh, I love that.
And like because we were in this dreamy space, if we needed to ask a question about Greece, Europe, those sorts of things, we just ask him and he'd just like pick up his phone, yell into it, put it down, get us answers. And he was like, for the dream, for the dream. He was like, I know it's not real, whatever, for the dream. And there was something very special about him for sure
Oh.
that brought all this together. And it was one of our last days here, and Shane says to him, I think we're actually serious. We might look for a property. And he goes, oh, well, I have a property that's been in my family for generations that, my kids don't want to restore. It takes too much time and money. They don't want to do it. Do you want to look at it? And it's like, so the location, so Naxos is like built up with a
Mhm.
castle at the top.
Oh.
And we got engaged at the door of the castle.
Oh my
So pretty.
gosh.
And this little property is just like minutes from that door. So the location was very kismet and perfect. And yeah, I don't know. Shane saw it. Shane has this knack for like seeing opportunity. He's
Mhm.
an Aquarius, where I
Oh.
might be like, oh my God, no, that looks hard. He'll be like, no, hard is good. Hard means no one else is going to do it, and I'm going to do it. So it's essentially a pile of stones to my eyes, a pile
Right.
of ancient stones that we don't know what to do with. We have no background here. And Shane just saw nothing but possibility and opportunity. And I was like, okay, all right, I am open. Let's do it. So
Does he
that's
have
that's
any
how that.
background? Does he have any background in like building
Oh
things?
yes,
Okay.
yes, that's what he does. He's been building houses, construction, contracting for years and years.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I'm like, there had to be something that allowed him to say, yes, this is possible because I'm an Aquarius too. And I would look at a pile of bricks and go, man, I mean, that's lovely, but what do I do with that?
Right, yeah. There's a skill set, thank
Okay.
God.
That is so cool. I love that. And you just took
Yeah,
it and
yeah.
ran with it.
Yeah, and we like are running with it, and we're continuing to work with our partner, and then subsequently his family. We've gotten to know his whole family, and Lindsay, there are so many like soul connections in there that I even see through like astrology and stuff like that. That I'm like, whoa, this family, like we were meant to meet this family, and hopefully vice versa, and hopefully we can give back in lots of ways too.
Wow. Yeah, it really does seem like there is a much deeper connection there. And I'm not surprised, obviously, that you're seeing that too. That makes sense. And, the fact that you were even led to him in your Airbnb, like when there's tons of houses that you could pick. Like people don't always think about the fact of like whose place you're staying in or like who you're gonna meet. And like the fact that that one place, that one person is what led you to where you're at.
Totally, totally. And everybody will be like, why Greece? Why not Portugal? Whatever, and name some country. And I'm like,
Yeah,
sure, for sure. There are probably lots of opportunities in all these places. And
right.
we could run ourselves ragged trying to analyze that to death and do nothing. So in
Hmm.
the end, we went, we're going to trust like what God's given us here and the synchronicities that are at play and just go with that rather than like, oh, let's make sure we've analyzed every possible choice we could make here, you know?
I think that's a great point because, yeah, to your point, like you did receive a lot of signs from what I'm like hearing from your story, but there's so many places where you could have just cut it off. Like you're saying, looking at this old building, if Shane didn't have the skill set, and then two, if you just didn't want to take that risk, take that leap, like you could have cut it off right there. Like, what really was it just pure desire and you like you had said you hit the end of your line or like what was it that made you see them as signs and synchronicities and not a scary path that you just didn't want to go down.
Hmm. I mean, I think at this point in my journey, I have a pretty good feel for what is God talking to me
Mm,
and what is and like what when God's telling me to go this way versus don't go this way. I at this point I have a pretty good feel for that.
hmm
And listen, that doesn't always mean that like it's an open road, go this way. I'll tell
mm,
you now that we're here and we're like hitting all the blocks. Yeah, but those blocks didn't come up before for a reason. Those blocks didn't come up
mm,
before because they would back us into a corner and we'd be like, ah. They come up now because we've moved here and now we have to like face a new level of fear. We have to, you know, understand how to adapt, to be flexible, because that's going to be part of this whole process.
right.
And so like there's even like a divine timing to the things that don't work, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I totally believe in the fact that it's maybe not the thing, but it's maybe just the timing of it. So to have
Right.
that trust and say, like, if this is really meant to be, like, it'll be later.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a misconception about when there's a path that you're meant to take, there's a belief that like, oh, things will always like open and flow in that
Mm,
direction. And I don't think it's necessarily the case. Again, it will have to do with timing. It's like it will probably open and flow when it is a seed of an idea
mm,
because they want you to plant the seed. But
right.
then, there will be like obstacles to help teach you the skills that you need to keep going down a path or whatever that happens to be. And
Right.
so, and I know that that's tricky. That's like a level of discernment that can be really tricky because I would say, like a 5 to 10 years ago, me would interpret a lot of what's been going on since we got here as like, oh, nothing's working. We are blocked. We made a mistake.
Mm,
Because there have been like a number of things that are just like, oh my God, what? But I have a different feel for them now. Like I can feel when it's like telling me like Angel stop versus like, no, there's just like a lesson that you need to feel into here.
yeah.
Um,
Well, that's
and
beautiful
that
because you've done so
discernment.
much work on yourself already. And so you can have that discernment. It might, like you're saying, it might not be this clear, perfect path, but you could feel the difference between, like, hey, there's a lesson here, and oh no, this is just not the way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Thank
Love
God.
that. But I mean, to people who are, hearing this and saying, well, like, I don't know the discernment. I don't know which one is the difference. Like, one, I guess for you, is there any tips for them, or is it really just trial and error?
Mhm.
Is it making those choices and going through life and seeing how you feel and really lining up the patterns to train yourself? Like, what was it for you?
Yeah, great question. This I actually like, I want to write down this question so that I can feel into it to give a proper answer. But off the top of my head, something that will help build this discernment or help with this discernment would be when the sign of resistance comes up. The question when the sign of resistance comes up is like, oh, am I being blocked because I shouldn't go this way? Or is it a lesson? So I think the best way to operate is like when the resistance comes up, asking yourself, like, what is this what would I have to learn or what lesson could be hidden
Mm,
here? You know what I mean?
hmm.
Maybe you go into victim mode when the resistance comes up. Okay, well, is there like some learning around being a victim?
Mm,
Um, is maybe when the resistance comes up, there's some fear about um, trusting yourself, trusting your choices. You know what I mean? It's like almost just
yeah.
like meeting whatever the lesson is, because you're not going to hurt yourself meeting the lesson. So you may as well
Hmm.
meet the lesson. And then you'll start on the other side of the lesson, there will probably be a breakthrough. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
resistance will break through
Hmm.
if it was just there to show you the lesson. If it was there to be an actual block and say, like, go another way, it will not break through. And you will need
Yeah.
to, the lesson will actually be about shifting, about trusting, about surrendering, by trusting God.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love just, yeah, the messages that you shared right there. I think it's going to help a lot of people even just start to understand how it feels for themselves. And to the point, like, I know I asked you for, like, oh, a tip, but it's not just like a one and done situation. You're not just going to, like you said, do, this practice that you just mentioned and then, oh, I got it. It's a continuous practice over and over again every single day of your life to get to know yourself deeper.
Right. And that, I mean, you are gaining experience with that discernment, and with experience, you will be more confident
Mm,
in your discernment.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for the question. I'm like, ooh, that's juicy. I'm gonna write that down and think about it.
I know. I'm sure you could like end up going on like a whole 1 hour riff on that, but I just feel
Uh-huh,
like the
uh-huh.
wisdom that was dropped here was just so good and it was needed for whoever needed to hear it. So
Thank
run with
you.
it later.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I
Okay,
would
okay,
love
okay.
to take us back to like when you were about to like you knew okay this is happening, you guys had really put the stake in the sand of like this is what we're doing, we're moving forward with this Greece move, and then coming back to real life, coming back to Canada and saying that means I have to leave my job. Now I know you weren't like super sad about it because you were like already not loving life, and I can very much empathize with that greatly. I know what that feels like to just not even just be frustrated but having this feeling of like, no, this just is not it anymore. I know this feels like safety, but like, I don't care about the safety anymore. Like, I'm over it. I'm ready
Mm-hmm.
for something new. And so, what was the process like from, you were kind of talking about like January was like the real time you were starting to like leave your job. What was the process that you went through, that you took yourself through to actually leave?
Yeah. It was a co-creation for sure. It was like God working with me. I picked a date. I was like, January 7th, after the break, I'll go through because I look after drilling rigs. I'm a geologist. Looked after drilling rigs and they would drill through that season. And I was like, you can't, like I can't drop them right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do the
Mm-hmm.
season. I picked my date. But then, like early December, I'm starting to I can see the signs. I can see the signs that God's showing me of like, you should give more notice than that. And I was like, I don't want to give more notice. They don't deserve more notice. I don't want to be having these conversations for over a month. I don't want to do that. But like, again, I've been doing this listening and paying attention to the signs long enough to know when I have to like get over my own stubbornness, my own like what I want. Because in the end, like what I think I want is best, it actually isn't. And
Mm-hmm.
gosh, it's so true because I saw the signs and it was like, okay, you got to give your notice early. I give my notice early, and my exit from this company couldn't have been more beautiful. Like I was so celebrated. It was overwhelming. Like it was like a
Mm-hmm.
lesson in receiving because I was like, I thought, I thought I was just going to slip out the back door. That was my plan. I was going to be like, bye, here's 2 weeks, bye. And no, it was like lunches and drinks and like so many beautiful conversations and connections that
Mm-hmm.
I know are going to come up down the road. I know they are. Who knows in what
Mm-hmm.
capacity? Out here in Greece, in my spiritual business, whatever it happens to be. So, and had I not done that, had I just left it for the 2 weeks and kind of stuck it to them, it would have been
Mm-hmm.
a very different parting, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's what my ego wanted. That's what my ego wanted to do. But I had to let go of that. And then, what did it really take? It took courage. It took a lot of courage to, yeah, say no to the path that I was so certain for so long was what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
like we
I
invest
totally
in
feel
those
that.
paths,
Yeah.
we invest our time, we invest our energy, we invest our money, our relationships. And then we're like, how do I just turn from that path that I put so much of me into? And courage, courage and working with God, I would say is how you do that.
That's beautiful. And yeah, you do. You invest a lot. And it's also, when it starts to become, I think our society sees like, you start a job, you start a career, and you keep going. Like that is normal. People support you in that. People are super encouraging. Even if you're like, "Oh, I don't like my job, they're like, it's fine. You can find another one. Like it's really safe. Like you got all this money. There's like so much energy behind that. I know I felt that as well. There's like collective energy. There's collective energy behind a company. There's collective energy behind working in corporate. Like society is just like building you up in this direction, and it's like going the other direction, going another path. And it's not because you weren't successful, and it's not because people didn't love you. It was like internally you just felt differently. I know that that is a very challenging step to make and follow through with it. And I just watched again, like I watched you do it in such this graceful way that you were allowing yourself to receive. And I also want to reflect on like what you've shared with me and really like with the group at large, like in our trainings, like you would be at work, like at the rigs and everything, like being on your own awakening, being on your own spiritual journey. So like you actually utilize like where you worked in your work situation in the best way for you to really evolve yourself. And I think a lot of people say like, "Oh, I'm in this cubicle and I know you weren't in a cubicle, but okay, I'm in this job that I don't love. I have to leave this to become more spiritual." And I witnessed you do the exact opposite. You learned a lot from that job.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes. And I think this is really important too because it's really important to like create your reality as best you can, at least in your energy, exactly where you are.
Mm,
Because otherwise, you're teaching yourself that whole if then
hmm.
lesson, which is like, oh, I
Yeah.
can be spiritual when I
Hmm.
can when, and that lesson is that lesson's a risky lesson.
Yeah.
Um, and I was learning that a lot in that like I wanted to leave the job. I wanted to leave the job, but I kept getting signs of like, hold on. And then I was like, okay, if I am meant to hold on, I must find as best I can a way to like live what I'm looking for within this reality. And eventually you do that, you focus on your energy in your current reality, eventually your external reality changes. A
Hmm.
lot of the time without you having to do anything. So so I always come back to yeah, it's all about like the internal environment first and always, not the external environment.
Yeah, and focusing on your internal without like continuously like looking out, like is the external changing? Is it changing? You know, like it's I have this visual
Yeah,
and
right.
I was telling my husband this the other day, but the visual I have is like, you know, when you're someone that's trying to lose weight and you're just like stepping on the scale like every like 5 minutes, it's like, okay, well, it's like not going to move every 5 minutes. It's probably not going to even move every day. And so that like comparing yourself, like your external reality every single day, even if you are focusing on your internal, I know I've heard a lot of other people say, like, just put your head down. You don't have to like put blinders on, but do put your head down to a point and then look up, but like longer than 5 minutes down the road.
Such a good analogy. And also, like in that analogy, how defeating it can be if you look out to your external constantly, and then that's just stops the whole process,
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
right?
And that's like, yeah, you're defeating the entire purpose of looking at your internal because you're really not. You're like you're doing it to get something. And I've been talking a lot about this. Like giving or like doing to get is what stops whatever you're trying to manifest because you're like, oh, I'm just doing this because someone told me like, oh, if I focus on my internal world, then my external world will change. Okay, I'm focusing. And you're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're like waiting, you're like peeking around the corner. Is it here yet? Like, no,
Baker.
you missed the
Oh,
point.
yeah. That's such a good sound bite that like doing to get something is like I can't remember your exact words, but I was like, oh my gosh, chink. Yes, totally. Yes.
And you were someone that literally, did watch you be in the present moment, like feel the frustration, but also, like you said, you were led and you listened to the signs of like, I am frustrated. I would like to leave and also not yet. But so like being open to the possibility and like I kind of just like watched this ebb and flow of you like having the frustration but waiting to leave. And then when it was there, it was like, okay, game on. Like you were not gonna wait around to be like, are we sure? I don't know. Is this the right sign? Like, you know,
Right.
if you're actually serious about that, move when you're called to move.
Yes. Yeah, and I guess that's where like when you are making a conscious decision versus an unconscious one, um, like you can be patient because
Yeah.
it's like it becomes not about you, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. You have to
Yeah.
be.
Well, and I also watched you just like once you really followed all of these threads, you did just have this like true internal glow about you. And I want to know from like your point of view, like how did it feel to have this this desire on your heart for so long of wanting to leave, of wanting to make a big move, not knowing what it was, now being given this whole Greece move, doing the things and actually going through that process of like now you've left the job, you've done the hard things, and like I just like watched your energy soften into this like whole new person, but it was from such a grounded place.
Mm. Thank you. I received that. That's really, thank you for that reflection. I would say like January to May when we
Mhm.
were still home, but we were like in the process of moving. It took a lot
I'm
to
sure.
move out of the country. Um, and I had quit my job and, we were going this direction. That felt really freaking good. I was just trying to celebrate every part of every day, be grateful for exactly where I was, not just when I get to Greece, whatever. Be really present to my connections,
Mm.
something that I was like struggling to do while in my on-call job. And then you make the big move, you make the big leap. And I'm a month in and there's a lot going on, Lindsay. There's a lot.
It's
I'm in
okay.
process. I'm fully in it, in the stickiness. And there's a lot about this part that when I got here and I started to experience it, made me realize nobody was talking about this part. I was like, nobody talks about this part when you do the
Ooh.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you do the thing and like what's going on once you do the thing? And I was like, almost kind of upset that nobody's talking about that part. I'm like, but there is one person that does talk about it, and you and I have talked about him in his book a lot, The Big Leap.
Yeah.
And this is a phenomena that I'm seeing coming up a lot. And I'm so grateful, thank you, for introducing me to that book and that concept because it's been very supportive and it's like raised my awareness enough to not sabotage where we are.
Mm. I love that.
But one of the things that I've witnessed, and there are many, but we'll just highlight this one, of when you get to the place, when you do the thing, when you get to the dream, whatever, is when it's a big enough leap, your energy, where it was and where it is now, you haven't expanded your energy to be able to hold the new energy of where you've gone,
Mm-hmm.
of the thing that you've been trying to bring in and manifest. You've probably expanded it at times. That's why you've been able to get here. But to be able to hold it and sustain it is, not something that I'm not there yet. And therefore, my capacity for more peace, more love, more joy is, I'm not quite there yet. I only know that much peace, love, and joy on the other side of suffering. That's the only,
Mm.
that's the program I know. So the program of I can have it every day. I don't know that program. So what does my ego do? My ego's like, well, shall we create some suffering? Let's create some suffering or whatever it is, or let's sabotage so that you're in more of a comfortable box. You're not expanded enough for this box. Let's bring you down here. Thank God I have the awareness to see that that's what's going on and I'm not playing. I'm not like letting myself go there, but I can see, various times it coming up in myself or Shane and thank God for the awareness. So I would say that that is a big thing that I wish people would have talked more about, or maybe they have and I didn't understand it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an important thing to watch for is like, what are the ways, how sneaky can your ego get? Because, I was like, dirty. My ego's dirty. The things that it like brought up, I was like, what is this? I haven't seen this problem in years. What are you doing here? I don't need
Yeah.
this right now. So yeah,
It's a
hope that
great
answers.
point to point out. And just like, especially how you even mentioned, like, there's things that are coming up that you feel like you've dealt with in the past. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, we did this. We moved through this. Like, why is this happening again? It's funny because I interviewed Chelsea on a previous podcast. I know you don't know her, but she does similar work that I do. And so we were talking more about like the body and health challenges, like from that lens. And she
Mm.
had shared that a very similar pattern of like, old symptoms, old health challenges were coming up, like as she was like moving into this next level. And she was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, no, 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 I already did this. I moved through this. So like now that you're saying this too, I'm like, guys, there is a pattern, whether it's your health, whether it's your life, whether it's your relationships, whatever pattern. I just believe that each person came here to learn certain aspects of life. So some people are going to experience more of it in the health realm. Some people are going to experience it more in relationships or other aspects of life, but it's still this common thread of these patterns that your body, your soul is going to see of like this has come up again and it's going to irritate you specifically. Like it showed up for
Mhm.
you to move through it, but now it's a different energy, it's a different frequency, and it's the next layer, the next level of it, even though it seems similar. Have you felt that?
Totally. I agree. Yes. Another layer, new level, new devil, yada, yada,
Hmm.
all those things. And I would say that I think, this came to me while you were speaking. I think part of the reason it's an old pattern that comes back up or an old story is because your ego knows that that one works.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like, ooh, how do I get her? Like what will get her? Oh, I know. The one that has gotten her so many times. That one will get her. And so I think there's a piece of that in that it's like it knows it works. Like this will trigger you. This will get the spot, you know?
It's like I'm literally like watching the same podcast over again. I swear you guys are saying the same things. That's why I want to point it out because I'm
Oh,
like
I gotta go listen.
deja vu. I mean, it's
Love it.
wild, but I want to point that out to listeners as well to be like, this is real. There's nothing wrong with you. However, to your point, it is going to be something that is triggering to you, is activating to you. It's not going to be activating
Mhm.
to someone else. So that's what happens when people start to try and get validation from external or just from other people to say, well, isn't this a bad thing? Like, doesn't this irritate you? And if you ask somebody else, they're going to be like, no, what are you talking about? Now you feel crazy because you just asked for
Correct.
validation outside of yourself. That's like not
Mhm.
it.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so I mean, I'm sure this happens to your listeners with health stuff all the time,
Mhm.
where it comes back. And I guess now a new question you can ask yourself is like, what could your ego be trying to distract you from?
Mhm.
What new growth are you moving into? What new up level? What new, whatever it is for this
Mhm.
old story to come back and pull you back? You know?
Yeah, yeah. And I just so appreciate you like being so willing to be on this podcast and share where you're at because I know that, when you feel like you're in the middle of it and you don't fully have the complete process, like pretty bow version of like where you're at, it can sometimes be challenging to be like, I don't actually know what's going to be on the other side. I'm kind of in the middle of the maze and I can't find the end. And I think
Yeah.
that's beautiful. So many people are in that place. Like not everyone has like fully processed and integrated every piece of their life and they're like, "Let me give you this polished answer." No.
Thank you. It's uncomfortable for me
Hmm.
to like talk about things that I haven't fully processed.
Hmm.
And now you're helping me to see that like it's still it's very helpful for me to like out loud digest.
Yeah.
And, perhaps that's helpful for other people.
I mean, this podcast was very much built on like no editing, very raw, very
Yeah,
real thing. So
go with it.
it makes sense that this is happening
Yeah.
here. I see so many people
Yes, it
process this
does.
here.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. It's like we don't need to polish, plan, whatever. We're gonna work it out on camera.
I think so many people are just really waiting for that type of conversation as well because you see so much of this polished perfection energy online. And then
Right.
if you aren't necessarily one of the people creating these programs, classes, podcasts, whatever it is, if you're not necessarily in the creator space, but you're consuming it, you don't necessarily realize that that is the polished version, that they have to go through the process to get there, but now these people are talking to their customers, their clients, their consumers with these polished faces, with these polished videos,
I see.
and
Yeah.
the people feel like, oh, I have to be that way. This process that feels mucky and muddy and that I'm going through isn't it. Like I haven't gotten to where you're at because yours looks so perfect. That's not
Mm-hmm.
the
Oh,
point. And you're
yeah.
now doing these people a disservice because they think that that is the only thing that they recorded, and that perfection is what they have to compare themselves to. And that's so
I've
not
never thought
it.
about that. Yes, yes. And I would say the polished stuff gets really repetitious. Repetitious? Don't know if that's a
Yeah.
word. But there's something about the messy middle and talking about the process that you're in that is like, it is really authentic. It is one of a kind. You've not actually had that conversation before, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. And it's like you can't really replicate it. Like if you're in the middle of it and you really are just present, you can't replicate that energy ever again because it was here and it was
Right.
gone.
Totally. You
So,
and I will leave this and we'll be like, what did we talk about?
oh, I'm real sorry. Show notes are a real challenge for me. I hope no one ever reads them. Just watch or listen to the podcast and like move on because I get off of these and I'm like, I don't know. That was great. Someone else write this for me.
Yeah, totally.
I tried to have
Chat
AI
GPT.
do it too, and it didn't even like go so well. I was like, AI doesn't even know
Oh,
what we said.
oh, okay. Well,
I
it'll be
know.
good, people. It'll be good.
Yes, yes. So where you're at now, like if you put yourself in your very uncomfortable seat, you're in the middle of the process, you're going through it, but you're not going through the frustrating things, you're going through your soul's evolution. You're going through like the muckiness to get to your next level. What can you share with us about besides being in stickiness? Like, what is it feeling like for you? And what are you doing to take your next steps forward to listen to your soul's highest path, to listen to like where you are going? Like, from this place, what is life looking like for you right now?
Well, I'm trying to, well, I every day bring as much presence and gratitude as I can into this life, in the mucky, in the uncomfortable, in the whatever. Like, because
Mm,
I really don't want to slip into the story of, oh, when the muckiness is over, then
yeah.
when we get to Greece, then when our project is done, then I'm over that story. That that narrative is gone. So I'm just like, okay, in the simple moments of like, this is really beautiful. We walk our dog to the ocean every day, right?
Aw.
And we get in because he's hot by the time we get there in the morning. And I get in the ocean nude because it's very open in Europe and there aren't a lot of people around, whatever. And I'm like swimming naked in the ocean in the morning on a Monday. And I'm like, yeah, be with this moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Okay. So I do a lot of that. And like, I don't know, like listening to the roosters crow while I eat my dinner and stuff like this. So just like living life now.
Yeah.
Like live and love life now. That's a really important skill to learn because otherwise your whole life is about getting somewhere.
Hmm.
So that's one thing I'm doing. And then, no surprise, this does not surprise me about myself. I need a little routine, structure, balance.
Mm.
I can't just be all willy-nilly all day long. No, I don't know who can. Maybe some people can. They are not double Tauruses for sure. So every week, I'm like trying to introduce a little more routine, a little more structure, and I'm trying to choose what that is, when that is, how long that is from a very intuitive, feminine driven place. So it's like me finding my balance so that I don't go into my hyper structure, overdrive, productivity girl. That
Hmm.
girl died, had to die. Um, so yeah, so I bring a little bit of that in, a little new layer of that every week. And that's helping me to find my footing and to feel more settled. But I also just really recognize that feeling settled, moving across the world to a place where you have no roots, You do not speak the language. You know nothing. Everything is different. It will take time. And so I'm just like, I don't know how much time it'll take. It may take a year. It may take multiple years. I don't know. So I better just like love life right now, even if I'm unsettled and even if I'm a little like floatier than I like to be.
Yes, I feel like your grounded energy is like, this is new, but in probably a good way because there's some people that are extra floaty and don't feel
Mhm.
as safe grounded. So it's that balance that whatever
Yeah.
you kind of gravitate towards normally, like, can you experience the other one and like see how it feels and maybe not have to go all the way there? Like you're saying, you're finding your groundedness in your practices or in your routines and bringing that in a more feminine way, I think is beautiful. I know personally for me, trying to do the exact same thing every single day, I don't necessarily love that. It just doesn't work for me. Other people are like, I must do the exact same thing at 7 a.m. every single day. More power to you. That's lovely.
Yeah.
And if that's your vibe and that's what helps and supports you, then amazing. But if it's not, then do what supports you. But I love that you actually did say and you acknowledge that this is this lovely, flowy energy and space and time that you're in right now. And also, there is value in some type of structure in your life.
Yes. And it's really gotten me to think a lot about contrast, and I don't yet know, is this like across the board or is this a me thing? I'm still sitting with it, but like just pleasure, just pleasure, beauty, peace, and so on without some work, without some without some contrast, can we experience it in quite the same way? And I'm not sure that we can.
Hmm.
And so how I used to live was extremes. Okay, like go extreme, extreme on the suffering and the work, so you can have extreme on the. So we're not going to do that anymore. But like a little bit, how can you bring in a little bit of contrast so that it makes every time I'm down at the beach swimming a really present, pleasurable moment.
Hmm. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. I am so grateful that you shared too just like how your days are going, like and just how you're feeling. That is truly the dream. And also when you're saying like, oh, I feel uncomfortable in this, to like I know we had this conversation a little bit and you were sharing like, I don't know if I want to share the fact that, I feel uncomfortable that I just moved to Greece. Like, how is that going to come off to other people? And it's like, it's more about the energy that you're in. It doesn't necessarily have to be your exact life steps, but the energy of you're
Totally.
in of like, I have the thing that I wanted this whole time. And also,
Hmm.
I don't know exactly what to do with it yet. And you moving through
Right.
it is so helpful to share to other people because you're right. Like, yes, it is talked about a little bit when people are talking about in the book, The Big Leap. Yes, there you have your upper limit and you aren't allowing yourself to feel as much joy and pleasure and happiness. But I don't think a lot of people are sharing so vulnerably because they also might feel this, maybe this entitlement or like privileged energy that they
Yeah.
don't want to share with other people to make other people feel less than. But it's not about making people feel less than. It's about this is where I'm at, this is how I'm experiencing life. And you can look at that from an energetic lens and pattern standpoint to say, how does this apply to my life? And then take the lessons and the teachings that you're sharing. It doesn't have to be everyone moves to Greece and doesn't know what to do with themselves, it can be something else.
Right. Yes, totally. I mean, it could be like, you've always wanted that job, or you've always wanted to start a business, you've always wanted a baby, or whatever it happens to
Hmm.
be. And then, like, what does it look like when you get there and your energy's not expanded into that container yet?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like,
Which
oh
I
no.
think is probably something everyone feels in some way. And then if you bring your awareness to that, then you can like messily move through it with a lot of humor, gratitude, joy. But if you don't bring conscious to it, you know what you're gonna do is you're gonna sabotage that moment because
Mm.
that's what we do. You're gonna like focus on the bad things, or you're gonna like do, I don't know, you're gonna leave the job that you worked so hard to get to, or whatever it happens to be. But like, I can see now, thought about sabotage in my life. I had not thought about it until this moment. And now I see what's happening. And it's really just to get you back to where you were comfortable. And where you were comfortable might have been a bit of suffering.
Mm, so beautiful. I also want to mention that this last minute of this conversation has all been recorded at 11:11 my time. So just in case anyone wanted some extra validation, you're welcome. Just felt important
I
to
love
share.
11:11. But that is 7:11 here.
Yes, yes, very, very different. I do do acknowledge that. Well, Angel, this has been truly one of my favorite conversations, and I just thank you so much for being so vulnerable and authentic with our listeners and just with me here, and just sharing where you're at and where you've been, because I have just watched your life and you truly transform. Like there has always been this true essence of Angel that has never left, but I've watched you just grow and expand and truly glow into this next version of your life and sharing the nitty gritty of everything you're going through. Like, I would guess most people looking at you on the outside wouldn't guess, like, oh my gosh, she has challenges in life. But it's from such a grounded, beautiful place where you're learning all of these lessons. And it's just so, so fun for me to witness. And so I'm just really grateful to call you a friend and to just know you so well. So thank you so much for being here with me and with all of us today.
Oh, Lindsay, thank you for witnessing me. I mean, having known you since basically the beginning of my awakening is not like that's very special.
Mm, yeah.
And also thank you for like shepherding me through this conversation
Mm,
because, you know, what your listeners don't know off camera is I was a little bit nervous to talk about where I'm at because
mhm,
it's so messy for me. And I told Lindsay, I was like, I'm struggling to talk to people back home, to go on
mhm.
Instagram, because like I don't know how to answer the question, how are things going? And not because they're not going great. There is so much great. There is so much great. And I hope that lands with this podcast. But just because it's so big and it's so enormous to summarize. I'm like, I don't know how to put that into a summary, so I'm just going to not answer those questions. So I just want to thank you because you really like gracefully shepherded me through where things are at, where they came from, where they're going, and I don't know, it just made me feel a lot more comfortable to do that.
Oh, I love that. You're so welcome. And I'm just grateful that this podcast was able to give that to you.
Total gift, total gift. Yes.
All right. Before we end, I just wanted to also share, I shared this with you beforehand. So I always pull a crystal for me to like hold on to and ground my energy. If you see me moving my hands around and I'm holding something, it's always a different crystal. So before we started recording, I told Angel, I was like, hang on, like I need this to like make sure my energy stays in my chair. And I just will kind of like muscle test. I have, you can't see it, but I have like a whole desk full of crystals. And I grabbed this one. I don't think I've ever used this to like hold. It's always just sitting here. And she was like, oh, which one did you grab? And I told her, I was like, oh, it's this peach moonstone. And she was like, oh my gosh, I actually have that one too. It's one of the ones that she has
And
as
not just
well.
have, like, I don't hold crystals generally. The only
Mm.
crystal I hold is this one.
Oh my gosh.
So it was very perfect.
I just wanted to share that. It just felt like this really beautiful connection that's like creating this energy and creating this space, and it felt really special. So, Angel, I know that getting back into work related things is like maybe not top of mind. However, I guarantee you, after people listen to this episode, they are going to want to find you in some capacity, work with
Yes.
you or something. So, where can people find you? I right now, where are you at?
Yes. No, I mean, this is my pulling the Band-Aid off to get back into work.
Okay.
Um, I have a podcast, Spirit Club Podcast. Would love if you'd come have a listen. I have an episode with Lindsay on there. Um, and you can work with me one-on-one through angel readings. This is my brand on an intuitive reading. But I also do subconscious reprogramming sessions as a separate offering. So if you're just like, I need to do some work with my subconscious, I talk about that a lot on my podcast, getting over blocks, all that sort of thing. So this is an offering just for that.
Love that.
So angel readings, intuitive readings, So conscious reprogramming is what it sounds like. But otherwise, I would just love if you come have a listen, check out my community, check out my vibe, and come say hi.
Beautiful. Yes. And we'll put all of the links for you to find her in the show notes. Go check her out, say hi to her on Instagram, listen to her podcast, and you'll absolutely love her and all of her guests that she has on her show. So, Angel, thank you so much for being here with us today. I love this conversation. I just like, because oftentimes I get off these podcasts and like I feel very like heady and like I can get a headache because all my energy is up here. And I do not have that right now. I feel very like grounded in my body, and I feel like a lot of that is from your energy that you bring. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Oh, I love that. Thank you for having me and great to meet everyone.
Yes, I'm so glad that you were able to grace your presence on the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast because truly, this woman is beautiful, glowing Grecian goddess. Watch this on YouTube or Spotify. And if someone came to mind when you were listening to this podcast, I would love for you to send it to them and share it with them so that they can hear Angel's story. Maybe someone really needs their own inspiration from her. And just really to get this message out there to more people. We would absolutely love for you to share with others. And we would also love if you gave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That also does get this podcast out to more people so that Angel's message can be heard loud and far. So thank you, Angel, so much for being here. And everyone listening, thank you so much for spending your time with us. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Love you much.